Hey guys, it's Shakina and I'm back to tell my labor and delivery story and how everything went down. It's quite kind of a long story, but it's not really that long of a story, but a lot of things did happen and my labor did not go as I thought it was and my delivery didn't either. So my due date my due date was January 20th, 2017, but he was not coming, so I had got scheduled to get induced because every time I got checked, I was still at a 1 or a 1.5. So I got scheduled to get induced on the 27th, and so I went in on the 27th around 4ish, and when I got there, I had to register and stuff so I can get to my room. And so once I did that, they took me to my room and they told me, they told me to get undressed and put on the gown, and that's when they were starting to give me my IV, and they were asking me a million questions. Literally, it felt like they were asking me a million questions. That's how many questions they had to ask. So while they were asking me questions, I was getting my IV done. Just chilling. I was very excited. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, it's gonna be here in like another day. Boy, was I wrong. So they started me off doing Zytotec. It's a small pill, and what it does is softens your cervix and it's supposed to help you dilate. So she did that first. And so once she did that and she checked me, I was only about at a 1. And once she did the little Zytotec pill, they did an ultrasound to look and make sure he was head down, which he was head down, which was good. Because at first it was like they were having a hard time finding his head. And it was like, oh, maybe he's breech. And I was like, no, I know he's head down. Trust me, I know he's head down. And so eventually they found his head. He was just kind of high up. And so they did the Zytotec pill, and after they did the ultrasound, they came in about an hour, 2 hours later to see what happens, because the pill, it dissolves on your cervix. And I was at about a 2. And so she decided to do this balloon thingy. It's like a long rod, and once they inflate it, the balloon is about that big. It's not really, well, it's probably not that big, but as I'm looking at my hand, it's about that big. And so that is supposed to help you dilate more too, and help open up your cervix for you to dilate more. So they did that, and once they did that, the balloon comes out on its own. And when I went to go use the bathroom, the balloon actually came out, and it looked so weird because it's like they taped a little rod thing to your leg, so it doesn't, like, I don't know why they do that, but it looked so weird. It was like dangling when I was walking back to the bed. And she checked me again, and I was around a 3 or 4. And that's when they decided to do Pitocin. So Pitocin is basically like a medicine that's supposed to help get labor started even more. So once they did that, every hour or so they came in up in my Pitocin, and I was having contractions, but I could not feel them at all. They were painless. I didn't even know I was having contractions. That's how painless they were. And so the lady was like, yeah, you're having contractions maybe every 1 to 2 minutes. But I was talking fully. I was getting up on my own to go back and forth to the bathroom. I was doing everything on my own, laughing, talking, everything was just fine. So I was doing that, and that's when she kept coming in. Eventually they came in and checked me, and I was only like at a 3 or 4. So they kept coming in, opened my Pitocin, and then I want to say it was late at night. Yeah, it was late at night. I want to say maybe like 1 or 2. I don't know. I really wasn't looking at the time, but she came in. She was like, oh, you're still at a 4. But she was like, we're going to break your water, because she was going to wait till I was 6 centimeters. But she was like, you're still at a 4. Maybe we break your water. It might speed things up. So they broke my water, and it felt so weird. It did not feel like I was peeing. I don't know what it felt like, but all I could feel was like warm liquid and warm liquid coming out, and it was a lot of it. It was a lot. It was a lot, and it was like a whole bunch of like warm liquid. And I know it's a little TMI, but it was like some blood coming out too. So once my water was broken and stuff, I was still having contractions, but now they weren't like 1 to 2 minutes. When I say these contractions were like going like back to back, but I still couldn't feel them. So they was like, well, your contractions are not how we want them to be. And I was like, wait, what? So they were upping my Pitocin more. And then when the next day came, the doctor asked, did I want to get my epidural? Because I was starting to feel a little bit of pain, but not too much. And I was like, oh, maybe I can do this without the epidural. But then that's when the doctor was like, oh, I think you should get the epidural. It might help speed things up. It'll lower your risk for having to get a C-section and all of that. Because I know you want to have everybody in the room and all that jazz. So when it was time to get my epidural, I waited for like maybe 5-10 minutes for the anesthesiologist to come. And he was starting it. And, you know, first my mom was in the room, because you only have one person in the room. Like, everybody else will have to get out. And he told me to bend my back, like, bend over. And he started giving me the numbing medicine. And he was like, if you can't move during this procedure, or you can get paralyzed from the waist down. So he started giving me my numbing medication that goes into your back, and it burns a little. And I started moving up and down. I started moving. He was like, you can't move. So then I backed out. I was like, no, I know I'm going to move because this stuff stings. And so I was like, I don't want the epidural anymore. But then, you know, it took me a little bit of time to calm down some, because I did cry. But it took me maybe like 15 minutes to calm down. And that's when he came back in. And he had some medicine. It started with the F. I forgot what it was called. But it started with an F. And he gave me that medicine because it's supposed to relax your body. And it did relax my body. And I did end up getting the epidural. And it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be at all. Like, once he did that numbing stuff, I did not feel anything but pressure going into my back. It was not how I thought it was going to be at all. So I got the epidural, and I had this little button that you could push whenever you needed more epidural medicine. But I barely started pushing that until my labor progressed on and on and on. So my labor progressed on, and I was dilating slow. I eventually got to about a 6 when the lady checked me again, and I was still kind of dilating really slowly. So they decided they were going to up my Pitocin and go from a 20 to like a 30. It was going higher. So they did that. Yeah, so they decided to up my Pitocin up to a 30. And so that's when the pain started to come a little bit. It wasn't too unbearable. So yeah, the contractions started to come, and I was starting to feel them. They weren't too painful, but it were giving me some pain. They felt like a few minor period cramps. And so I would start to push the button. But as my labor progressed on and on and on, they kept coming to check me. And I didn't get to about an 8 centimeters until the 3rd day I was in labor. But the 3rd day I was in labor, I ended up getting an infection. And I forgot what it was called, but he did not get the infection. It only got me, but it was like around his sack. And but don't you know, he didn't have the water to protect him. So they kept a close eye on me. And I also got a fever, but then my fever went down and then it came back up. But it wasn't nothing too bad. And so my labor progressed on, and being that this was the 3rd day, I want to say maybe it was around 2. It was 2 o'clock in the a.m. on June 30th. I mean, not June 30th, January 30th. And the lady was like, oh, well, he's face up, not face down, because his head was down. But when babies come out, they're supposed to come out face down. But the lady called it sunny side up or sunny side down. She was like, he's sunny side up. So they was like, okay, it's going to be difficult for you to push him out. So what she did, which is kind of TMI, she started out putting 2 fingers, then 3, then 4, then getting all 5 in there so that way she could turn his head. And as she was turning his head, that didn't hurt, but the fact that her having her whole hand in there and moving her hand was hurting, and I was screaming. And before they did that, they numbed me and gave me some medicine. She was like, oh, you're not going to feel anything. But I felt it. I felt it. Everything else on my body was numb except for that part of my body. So it was hurting. And she was like, I almost got it. She only had about this much to go. And that's when she was like, okay, push. I pushed about maybe 6 times. And then that's when she was like, oh, well, this is not going to work. You're going to have to get a C-section. So around 2:15, I was giving more numbing medication. Like, I was giving some more medication in my catheter, my epidural catheter, so I could be completely numb before I got the procedure done. And that's when they took me in, and that's when they started the procedure. They waited like maybe 5-10 minutes. Then they started the procedure, and when they were doing it, I couldn't feel anything for real, except for like, I don't know, maybe I think I felt that like them taking him out of me. That's what I felt a little bit. Other than that, I could not feel anything. I couldn't feel them cutting me open or anything like that. And so after they did that, once they got him out and stuff and all that, they were putting pressure on my chest. And at first I didn't know why, because I was so drugged up from all the medication I had, because my epidural catheter was not working. I kept pushing, and it was not numbing my back, but it was had me all drugged up. And so I really didn't know what was going on. But I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I was like, Mom, I can't breathe. And so then, long story short, the procedure was over because he was born at 2:58 a.m. on January 30th, 2017. And I only got a little glimpse of him because they had a hard time getting him to breathe and getting him to get his color. So once they did, I got like a 2-second glimpse of him. And then after that, he was rushed over to the CHKD NICU, and he was 8 pounds, 15 ounces. He was 19 inches long, I believe that's what they told me. And yeah, that was my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give this a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.